Just kidding. No intro. 4Kids Entertainment, your childhood's worst nightmare. The company that went from multi-million rock star status to bankrupt in less than 15 years. From controversy to bad business deals, flip your snapbacks backwards and put your heart in the cards. Time to take 4Kids to the Shadow Realm. It wouldn't be an authentic 4Kids video if we didn't have one of these. Here we go.
Illuminating television.
4Kids Entertainment wasn't even called 4Kids. It was LCI, also known as Leisure Concepts Inc., founded by Mike Jermacane and Stan Weston on April 26 of 1970. The founders were responsible for both Thundercats, G.I. Joe, and Captain Action. At the time of the founding, the company was known for licensing products, people's names, and concepts, while also pitching toys and cartoons. Names and products range from James Bond 007, Buck Rogers in the 25th Century, Nintendo, the Hulk, and Farrah Fawcett. You know, from Charlie's Angels. Yeah. The business was doing partnerships with Rankin and Bass Productions during the 1980s. June 5th of 1984, assisted with the production of Thundercats and acted as an agent for Lehman Telepictures. Mike Jermacane, the secretary of LCI, would be one of the many creators of Thundercats. While Ted Wolfe came up with the idea of the show, Stan Weston pitched the idea to Rankin and Bass. Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass see the potential of the idea and love it so much it goes into production. Mike, during the production, would then create the iconic logo, which was universally liked by the studio. After the show was launched, Mike would work on shows such as Silverhawks and the comic strip, both Rankin and Bass shows. LCI then gets a deal to license Star Wars and Lucasfilms months after the success of Thundercats. Alfred Kahn then became vice chairman of LCI in July of 1987. On December 17th of 1987, made a deal with Nintendo of America to market its software products. While Nintendo at the time released The Legend of Zelda, which sold over 1 million copies. While Nintendo gets deals with LCI, Bobby Kotick, former president of Activision Blizzard, would try to strike a deal with Commodore International. However, this fails and purchases stock in LCI, then becomes a chairman of the company. By the 1990s, Bobby would then sell stocks at LCI at 25%, then buy Activision and become its CEO in 1991. And we all know what happens after that. Yeah. By March 12, 1991, Alfred Kahn was appointed CEO of LCI after stocks were sold. Because of these successes in the licensing in the 1990s, LCI then expanded operations to television in 1992 and created English dubs of anime under 4Kids Productions and the Summit Media Group. By this time, Alfred Kahn would make the biggest threat and success to the company in media history. During Pokemon's launch in Japan, it was a huge success, sweeping the Asian countries. By the turn of the 90s, media companies would catch on to anime crazes, and Alfred Kahn was the pioneer of the Pokemon global expansion in the Americas. A lump sum was appointed to the anime and licensing rights, which at this time was unknown. Many speculate that it was around $250,000. I personally don't know, okay? I don't know. Pokemon would be the first Japanese anime in the time to have localization and licensing for anime and merchandise. Alfred would also look at the anime of Pokemon, which was called Pocket Monsters, no surprise there, and gave it the accented E because it gave the name, quote, a little flair. Okay. After approval of localization and merch, as well as giving it a catchy name for American kids, it was approved in 1997. However, was delayed abruptly after the Porygon episode in Japan caused hundreds of kids to be in the hospital for epileptic seizures. After the incident, a few months after, the release came to the United States, and research came back not so good. Kids were not engaged with the show nor the merch. This research was heavily ignored by Minoru Arakawa, former president of Nintendo of America. $50 million then was dumped more into getting Pokemon off the ground, which was the same amount as the Nintendo Entertainment System in 1985. Arakawa had faith in the franchise that he was willing to take the risk. 4Kids and Nintendo would look to the gambit and divide devise a marketing strategy. Gail Tilden would then leave Nintendo Power to focus on the marketing. Many at the company claimed the marketing was aggressive. Norman J. Grossfield took charge of localizing Pokemon in America and believed it should be Americanized. At the NAPTE in 1998, Grossfield asked for a carte blanche to market the anime, which ShowPro agreed to. Because American TV syndications were not interested in making investments or buying the anime, Khan would make a huge gamble and self-finance Pokemon, which in his own words could very well bring down 4Kids. The gamble went as follows. 4Kids would give the show to local TV stations for free in exchange for advertising revenue. Nintendo of America would invest $5 million to persuade broadcast syndications to carry the anime. Many were reluctant to do so as they looked at Sailor Moon's contemporary news reports and pointed to low interest in the show. Which couldn't be farther from the truth, I mean. Just saying. However, Nintendo of America and 4Kids were able to strike 112 broadcasting syndications to broadcast Pokemon. The downside was that it was given an off-peak time slot of 6 to 6:30 a.m. This was the norm for anime in the 1990s. The schedule at that time was able to reach 85 to 90% of households. The slogan, "Gotta catch 'em all," was coined by Norman, as to get the show to be catchy with the kids. The FCC approved the slogan with advertising regulations as to not get kids to, quote, buy the product. Just for the FCC. FCC and investors agreed that it was in line with the main foundation of Pokemon to catch all 150 plus Pokemon. The theme song was written by Joe Lafleur and John Siegler. Grossfield told both songwriters to put the slogan in the song. While these preparations were taking place, Nintendo of America and 4Kids had to go through final decisions by Japanese copyright councils. By September 17th of 1998, Pokemon Indigo League was released. 3 weeks later, Pokemon Red and Blue versions were released for the Game Boy. On January 9th of 1999, the trading card game was localized by Wizards of the Coast, responsible for Magic the Gathering. After the release of the anime along with the merchandise and trading cards, the show blew up. Pokemon Red and Blue sold 200,000 copies in the first month of its release, while the anime became the highest rated show on weekdays. Saban and WB found that anime was driving ad revenue to the brim. Because of Pokemon's success, both parties went under bidding to air Pokemon on a channel block, and Warner Brothers won. Kids WB would outbid Saban in conjunction with Fox Kids and broadcasted exclusively on Kids WB on February 13th of 1999. Saban was pissed. By March 1999, 764 million Pokemon cards were produced. In April of 1999, General Consensus reported that Pokemon was a huge phenomenon while also being a huge fad with kids. With having its own sorts of controversies from certain episodes to even religious leaders having concern for the franchise, Pokemania was coined by USA Today and Time magazine. The mania was so bad in the 90s, Toys R Us reported scarcities in trading cards, booster packs, and figures. The company reported every 24 hours cards and toys would leave the shelves, causing Toys R Us to go into profit freezes by August 3rd of 1999. By November 1999, Pokemon figures would go into complete freezes and buy limits. By November 12, 1999, Pokemon the first movie was released and then received negative reviews by critics. Burger King would be responsible for the movie's promotion in toys and saw the largest profit rise in promotion in fast food history. The same problem would happen to Burger King as toys would be sold out in an instant, while the Pokeball toy was recalled as an infant suffocated ingesting the toy. While this happens, Nintendo profits rise over 250%. 4Kids would see a 30% increase in profits and was named the fastest growing company in America by Fortune magazine on September 4th, 2000. And it didn't stop there. 4Kids would ride the wave of Pokemon in the early 2000s. The company joins NASDAQ on September 20th of 2000 under KDE. Many investors and economists called the stock bearish, as many predicted that Pokemania was a quick cash grab for many and would shorten the stocks. On April 5th, 2000, 4Kids and Mattel made contracts to make Hot Wheels die-cast Pace Motorsports monster trucks. By 2001, 4Kids gained contracts for licenses and legal rights to the merch and localization of Yu-Gi-Oh!, which exclusively aired on Kids WB on September 9th, 2001. Saban was pissed even more. 4Kids would then get 3% stock in the newly formed Pokemon Company for worldwide sales in video games. By then, would receive $140 million in revenue. Fast forward to 2002, Deke Entertainment would enter into a bidding war with 4Kids over the Fox Broadcasting Company, which 4Kids won for $100 million on a 4-year contract with the channel. As a result of the responsibility of the block, 4Kids would collect all ad revenue. By September 14th of 2002, Fox Kids would rebrand to Foxbox with the lineups Kirby Right Back Atcha, Fighting Foodons, Ultimate Muscle, and Ultraman Taiga. By the mid-2000s, 4Kids would gain more localizations to anime and sub-anime shows. Later would rebrand Foxbox to 4Kids TV with the lineup Sonic X, Shaman King, Cubix, Robots for Everyone, One Piece, Mew Mew Power, TMNT, Funky Cops, Winx Club, G.I. Joe Sigma 6, and Magical Do-Re-Mi. After a while, the Pokemon hype would die down after the Johto region was introduced. 4Kids would sell its stock at 3% to the Pokemon Company for $960,000 to Nintendo, Creatures, and Game Freak on October 10th, 2005. After December 30th of 2005, 4Kids contracts with the Pokemon Company would expire and would not be renewed with them. January 17th of 2006, 4Kids and Microsoft signed a deal to create children's video games for the Xbox 360, and Viva Pinata was developed by Rare. 4Kids would then launch 4-Site Licensing Solutions Incorporated for teen and adult audiences by April. By June 2006, acquires the license to sequels for the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX series. By December 2006, 4Kids would launch TC Digital Games and websites. Fast forward to October 2007, Kids WB drops 4Kids to production in-house and not rely on anime-based shows. And we all know how that worked out. Fast forward to 2008, the CW4Kids would launch on the CW on May 28th with the lineup of Yu-Gi-Oh! 5D, Sonic X, Go-Go Riki, Dinosaur King, and Chaotic. 4Kids TV would end December 2008. It would not be renewed for another contract by Fox. After 4Kids TV ended, 15% of its employees were laid off due to financial strains and hostile work environments, and it doesn't get any better for 4Kids after that.
And now, the stars of 4Kids will sing the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see?
By the 2010s, the New York Stock Exchange would suspend the 4Kids stock and get delisted months after. The CW4Kids would then rebrand to Toonzai with the recycled 4Kids TV lineup, along with Dragon Ball Z Kai on August 14th. Fast forward to January 11, 2011, Alfred Kahn would leave 4Kids after a decade with working with the company, and Michael Goldstein would be appointed chairman while 4Kids would look for a new CEO. Keep going to March, 4Kids would get sued by TV Tokyo and Nihon Ad Systems for getting into illegal agreements with different anime localization companies regarding Yu-Gi-Oh! 4Kids would be caught collecting royalties to all the Yu-Gi-Oh! Franchise localizations without paying other companies under the contract. As a result, 4Kids would be terminated from any Yu-Gi-Oh! Licenses, and companies were looking for $5 million in retribution. 4Kids would fight back against both TV Tokyo and Nihon and claim that they didn't get a 10-day notice on the termination of licenses, as well as a good faith contribution of $1 million to stop the lawsuit, which both parties kept going with. Come on, 4Kids. 4Kids by April would then file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy to protect themselves and would not back down from anything to continue their business practices. By October, 4Kids and Lehman Brothers would reach a deal to save the company from lawsuits, while not looking too good with Lehman Bros as they improperly invested 4Kids stocks and auction-rate securities. Many companies would place bids for 4Kids licenses, and Kids Company, a division of Saban Capital Group, would bid on 4Kids assets for $10 million. By 2012, Kids Co. would win, and 4Kids would give most of every asset to the company and divide the companies, ending and dissolving many different 4Kids divisions. By December 13th, 4Kids executives would plan its exit from bankruptcy by rebranding to 4 Licensing Corporation. The damage done was too late for the company to recover or pivot anywhere. After bankruptcy, lawsuits, and subpoenas, 4Kids closes down for good while filing for bankruptcy of November of 2016 and closing its doors February 7th of 2017. Don't touch that dial just yet. We're not done.
Hey, I know. I'll use my trusty frying pan as a drying pan.
4Kids for the longest time was a huge anime localization company, but heavily censored anime to make it more American and kid-friendly. From editing out rice patties to jelly donuts, burgers, or even $5 footlongs, to cigarettes being replaced with lollipops. Yu-Gi-Oh! In nature was heavily violent and more gruesome in production. However, it was lightened up to favor a more young audience and get less heat from adult watchdog groups. Parents Television Council, a conservative watchdog group on violence in movies and sex on TV, stated in 2006, Shaman King, even with edits and Americanization, was still too violent, leading to its short airing on the Fox box block. Eric Stewart, the voice of Brock and Kaiba, explained why 4Kids would do this heavy censorship. In his words, American culture would have a heightened sensitivity to certain aspects of the show compared to Japanese culture where it originated from.
This country.
Saturday morning cartoon blocks were already being hounded by adult helicopter watchdog groups, so to make it more marketable, getting rid of the food, sexual, and religious references, dialogue on death, alcohol, cigarettes, and firearms were needed to fit in with the guidelines. Although EI was another blocking mechanism by the FCC in the 90s to keep anime to a minimum on blocks with Americanization and obedience to the guidelines. Go figure. 4Kids, however, shouldn't get all the blame for these changes. TV network syndication would dictate which episodes would mess with ad revenue, and 4Kids had to be in compliance. Scripts and rehashings of certain scenes were given to networks before getting greenlit. Networks would tell 4Kids to cut out certain scenes and change religious stones to make it more secular.
Bruh.
Japanese anime companies at that time requested the changes as well to appeal to an American and international audience, and to make certain things familiar to an international audience, like food. When 4Kids would buy the licensing rights to distribute the anime, those edits were already being made ahead of time. Some argue that it was robbing of the culture and childhoods, which is understandable. However, had it not been for 4Kids getting those rights and Americanizing the anime to be broadcasted on networks, shows like Pokemon would have been collecting dust at a Blockbuster, and we all know what happened to that company. That's right. Like it or not, 4Kids is a part of all of our childhoods. While cringe to look at now, considering we have more mature anime companies that will dub without having to be greenlit by networks, had it not been for 4Kids, anime would have not been on the front end. Yes, they made a bunch of bad business deals, but what company hasn't? I mean, come on, you're watching this channel. 4Kids was meant for kids. Taking a risk on shows many American networks said wouldn't work out. However, it would ignore all negative criticism, invest all assets, go for broke, and create one of the biggest phenomena in entertainment history. Even when changing many things around to appease the parental watchdogs, would still find a way to get backlash onto the company. 4Kids will be remembered for all the silly edits and changes it did to many anime. But trust me when I say there are other companies out there that are worse than 4Kids.
No! God, please, no! No! No!